Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh, and this is your stimulus check update for the next stimulus package for Thursday, November 5th. I hope everyone is off to a good and safe start to the Thursday so far. In this video, I'll be discussing updates in regards to the next relief package and the second stimulus check. I'll also be discussing unemployment, Mitch McConnell now wanting to pass the next relief package before the end of this year, and then I'll be wrapping up this video by answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. But first, if you wouldn't mind real quickly liking this video, give me a big thumbs up. It really just helps with the YouTube algorithm in terms of pushing this video out to other viewers like you, and hopefully helping other people like you as well. Okay, so a swift change in the heart of Mitch McConnell was made, as he now says a new economic stimulus bill should be completed before the end of this year. He also said when the Senate returns to session next week, a new stimulus package will be the top priority for the Senate. This is very good news because prior to this statement, our Senate Majority Leader projected there would not be another relief package until 2021 at earliest. Of course, just because I'll be working on the next bill next week still doesn't necessarily mean anything will get passed this year, but it certainly gives us a lot more hope that something will be passed earlier than 2021. On top of all that, McConnell wouldn't rule out the possibility of adding state and local aid funding, which has been a top priority for Nancy Pelosi in the bill. McConnell said, quote, "We need another rescue package. The Senate goes back into session next Monday. Hopefully the partisan passions that prevented us from doing another rescue package will subside with the election. And I think we need to do it, and I think we need to do it before the end of the year." So these are very promising statements by Mitch McConnell, and I hope he's right. I hope that now that we have the election behind us, even with the presidential part of it potentially dragging out for another month or two, that we can finally reach a bipartisan compromise. We no longer have to play this game of politicking and try to make the other side look bad. Now it's time to show the American people why we elected them into office or kept them into office and get the job done. I also really like the fact that McConnell says that they'd like to get a deal done before the end of this year, which, again, doesn't necessarily mean for certainty that something will definitely get passed this year, but I like that he's at least shooting for that goal. As of right now, it looks like the Republicans are going to be hanging on to the majority in the Senate, which means that more than likely, if a bill does end up passing, it's going to be a skinnier deal. We could look at something like the HEALS Act, which was a $1 trillion bill, as an example. This is especially true if Biden ends up winning the election, where we'll no longer be having Trump and Mnuchin urging McConnell to get enough Republicans on board with a bigger bill. McConnell and other Republicans will definitely not be swayed by a Biden administration to agree on a $2 trillion bill. So again, if Pelosi wanted a big deal done, she should have taken what Mnuchin offered her a few weeks back. The question now becomes, now that the election is over and most of the smoke is cleared, will Pelosi now be willing to accept a skinny deal? I mean, Pelosi has held out on a deal for several months now. She didn't take the $1.5 trillion bill by the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus Group with any seriousness. She rejected the $1.9 trillion bill by Steven Mnuchin, and now with the Trump administration and Steven Mnuchin possibly no longer being in Washington, you may be left with dealing with a much cheaper and fiscally conservative Mitch McConnell and his group of Republicans in the Senate. If you think you're going to be stretching McConnell and other Republicans in the Senate up to a $2.2 trillion spending bill, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell to you. But hey, that was Pelosi's choice. And at the end of the day, she got to live with it. Because guess what? She won in her election with flying colors, so residents in her district of San Francisco must not think she's doing too bad of a job. Or could it be the fact that her opponent just wasn't all that competitive? Who really knows, but post-election, there really hasn't been that much change. Pelosi will still be the Speaker of the House, McConnell will still be the Senate Majority Leader, and whoever is in the White House really won't be able to make too big of a difference with the checks and balances we have in Congress. Unless Pelosi or McConnell are willing to budge, we're going to be at a stalemate, and there's a very real possibility we may keep the stalemate over the next 2 years if neither of the two are willing to budge. I'm not saying that's for sure happening, no, definitely not, but with anything, there is a real possibility that no relief may happen, and I think we should all try to prepare for that. With that said, I do think there's a much higher chance that they do, in fact, pass another relief package, but with everything, we should always prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. In unemployment news, with every state now officially exhausting all their benefits from the Lost Wages Assistance Program, all eyes are now on Congress to extend these benefits on a longer term basis. And even though the job numbers do seem to look a little bit better month by month, it's pretty apparent that we may need one last extension of the unemployment benefits to help bridge the gap so we can get our numbers back down to pre-pandemic levels. Also, sadly, we're seeing many people receiving letters from their employment security office letting them know that either they weren't entitled to the benefits at all or they were overpaid, and now many people are left with the burden of paying thousands of dollars back that they received. I mean, just imagine receiving something like $10,000 from your unemployment agency, using that money on rent and other bills, only to receive a letter saying that you now owe all that money back to them because that was money that you weren't entitled to. With everything going on, that's even more stress on your shoulders. Unless that was done fraudulently, it's pretty unfair to a lot of people to receive those benefits and then have to pay all of them back later on if they've been accepted. So we'll just have to wait and see where all that ends up going. Okay, so at this point in time, I'm going to move right along to answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. And if you do have any other comments or questions for me, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I do try to answer as many of the comments and questions as I possibly can, but for those comments and questions I'm not able to respond to, I do try to pick some of the more popular ones to answer in the next video in video form. Okay, so without further ado, let me go ahead and jump into the first comment of today's video, which is from Heather. Heather says, any idea how long after the election it will take until they pass it? Thank you so much for your question, Heather, and unfortunately, it's really hard saying at the moment. Even though both sides are fully on board for another relief package, they both have different ideas on how much they want to spend and what they want to spend that money on. Also, even though we recently saw Steve Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi come pretty close, being just $300 billion apart, it's quite possible that Nancy Pelosi may have to deal with Mitch McConnell in negotiations from here on out if Joe Biden ends up winning the election. So it could be anywhere between the end of this year if Donald Trump does happen to win and the results are fully determined before the end of this month, or it could stretch all the way until March or April of next year if Biden ends up winning. Sadly, we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully, it doesn't end up taking too much longer. Okay, moving right along to the next question in today's video, which is from Clay. Clay says, Josh, when you say a higher stimulus, would that also include a higher check to us? If so, how much do you think? Thank you so much for your question, Clay, and at this point, it's very unlikely that they'll end up passing the next relief package with a bigger check than $1,200. $1,200 has been the only real number that has really been thrown around in a serious manner. Although we have heard some lawmakers throw around numbers such as $2,000, we have never seen those proposals pick up too much traction. So in the end, regardless of the size of the package, it's more than likely going to be another round of $1,200 checks if they are included in the next bill. Okay, moving right along to the next question of today's video, which is from Charles. Charles says, do we still have an eviction ban until the end of the year? Thank you so much for your question, Charles. And yes, there is an eviction moratorium by the CDC, which is supposed to halt residential evictions for non-payment of rent through the end of this year. This, of course, does not include foreclosures on a home mortgage. Also, even with the CDC eviction moratorium in place through the end of this year, all the payments missed during the months of non-payments will be due in January, which at that point, if the payment is not made, the person can be evicted. So even with the eviction moratorium in place, we could be facing a lot of troubles of evictions come early next year. Okay, moving right along to the last question of today's video, which is from Robert. Robert says, I still have not received the $300 in unemployment from the Lost Wages Assistance Program. What's really going on? I live in South Carolina. Alright, thank you for your question, Robert, and I'm so sorry that you still haven't received the weekly $300 from the Lost Wages Assistance Program. I know that must be incredibly frustrating. First off, I'll say there's unfortunately a possibility that you may not be eligible for these benefits. In order to receive the $300 plus up, you must be receiving at least $100 in weekly state unemployment insurance benefits from South Carolina. Now, if you're receiving at least $100 in weekly state unemployment insurance benefits, then I would make sure that you've certified for the benefits for the program in your state's online unemployment portal. If you've done all that, then you should have definitely received the payment by now, so I would recommend contacting your state's unemployment customer service. Now, I would recommend, if possible, trying to call a little bit earlier in the day just to avoid those longer hold times. Also, definitely make sure to keep me updated, and I'll try to do everything that I possibly can to make sure that you receive your payments. Alright, so on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you did enjoy the content in this video and you'd like to see more videos like it, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It is completely free to do so and it's a great support to me. Also, if you'd like to receive 2 free stocks from Webull, with both stocks valued all the way up to $1,600, please feel free to claim those 2 free stocks by clicking the link in the description box below. And until next time, I'll see you guys, and I hope you have a great day today.